Welcome to Deep Dive Daily.
Ooh, I can't do it. It's a Drew thing. But welcome in. Drew's traveling today. Deep Dive Daily rolls on no matter what. Doesn't matter if he's in Sacramento or Lodi or San Jose or wherever he is in NorCal. We will roll on. It is Monday. We'll take a look at the markets. New sponsor today, Sharpstack from 4 for 4. I'm still working on getting him to change some things I want changed about the odd screen, but we'll use an odd screen today from them. It's a fun little tool. Maybe I'll play with that later. I doubt it, though. That's more of a Tuesday thing, as we're going to probably just rip through some markets and look at some of the adjustments that the market has made before we get to Tuesday, where we'll talk about the adjustments we have made. And 2 games tonight, kind of screwing things up. It's maybe my least favorite thing about a double Monday Night Football is the fact that we have 4 teams that haven't played, so it leaves a lot to be desired for getting us the openers. I know some places have kept lines open for those games, and you can certainly still bet into look-ahead lines. Obviously, that's still a thing. So real quick, here's the odd screen from my friends at Sharpstack. We'll take a look at all the games coming up. The Miami-Buffalo game is your Thursday night football game, as Buffalo just truck sticks a team that's much worse than them, I suppose. This look ahead was 10, reopens up. I'm not even looking at the game. Oh, there it is, 12.5, 13. Reopens 12.5. There's some places 13. Side was similar, look ahead was 48.5, reopens 49. Miami didn't have a lot of injuries for being a bad team, I guess. Stuck in Lodi again, says Brad. Chop Robinson went off late in the game. He did jog off the field. Keep an eye on that. It was looking like a knee injury. Josh Allen apparently broke his nose. Seemed fine after that, though. He did look pretty hurt when he walked off the field, the way he was leaning his head forward. I was worried about some sort of neck injury or something, but it looked like he may have just dislocated the cartilage or broke his nose or something. I guess we'll get an update. I think he'll probably still play. Matt Milano was also dinged up. He didn't play a lot in the second half. McDermott wouldn't tell us exactly what was going on there, which is annoying, but such is life with the coaches. And yes, as Abahef is pointing out, the players only meeting didn't work for Miami, and now they have a short week going up against a division rival who is really clicking right now. Moving on to Sunday, Indy, Tennessee. This look ahead was 2.5 for Indy on the road. Reopens 3, as obviously the market is probably going to have to start to come around and upgrade this Indianapolis offensive number. Total reopens slightly higher, 43.5. It was 42.5. Quentin Nelson was banged up. He hurt his knee late in the first half. He did return, though. I don't know. Some of these feel like it's worth mentioning, because you see this, like, hey, guy gets hurt, guy leaves the game, guy comes back after halftime, especially when they can do some stuff to him, and then he's on the injury report for the next week, because after the adrenaline and the Toradol wears off, it is actually a real injury. So keep an eye on that. Quentin Nelson matters quite a bit. Tennessee did have some injuries as well. Right guard Zeitler hurt his elbow, didn't return. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, he had to pop into the tent a couple times. And then Bryce Oliver, wide receiver depth, was also injured. He hurt his knee. Not excited to bet into this game. Probably will start to avoid some of these Tennessee and Indy games. The 2 teams that are responsible for an 0-2 ATS team in Denver. Atlanta, Carolina. Atlanta still this not up everywhere. Maybe it is now, but this was one that took a little while to get going for some reason. I wasn't super sure why this isn't up, but yeah, bookmaker and some of the offshores don't have a price up for this. This was 3, reopens 3.5. Total a little lower was some 44.5s. Now anywhere I've seen is 43.5 for the most part. AJ Terrell did not return, when he had that hamstring injury in the first half, as we found out from the crew helping us out in the chat at halftime. Left hamstring injury, that's problematic for a defense. Looked pretty good, but pretty good against a pretty terrible offensive line, especially the left tackle play for the Vikings last night as Atlanta got the win. Carolina, not much to mention. Ike Ekwonu was back in, but the team is still pretty rough. Las Vegas heads to Washington. I know some guys in the chat already bet this. This is up to 6.5 again. This is another one we're waiting for the Raiders to play tonight. This was 6.5. It's down to 5.5. It's getting bet back up again. Total's kind of holding steady at 47.5. The Raiders are and will be in the Widowmaker. So Raiders played tonight, so they'll have the short week. Washington, of course, plays Thursday, so they have the long week, doubling up on that, as someone in the chat mentioned, and even provided a chart for it. And I think we should give Chernoff credit because I think they said he was the one who looked into it. Not only is it just a bad spot for the team, which is built into the number, for Christ's sakes, it's been a really nice spot for the over on those games. And despite how I feel about both of these offenses, I could probably buy into that, although my numbers certainly aren't going to be at 47.5 for this right now. Washington had tight end John Bates and Noah Brown leave with groin injuries. Jonathan Jones, the cornerback, hurt his hamstring, things to keep an eye on, again, for the Sunday game. Green Bay, Cleveland. Green Bay ethered some teams so far this year, looking like the Super Bowl champs. Still early. They're missing, two offensive linemen. We'll see how they look. Maybe even better when Zach Tom and Aaron Banks get back. It's been a while since the game happened, if you don't remember this, but Jaden Reed didn't score a touchdown. I was about to say he scored a touchdown. They took it away, didn't they? And he broke his collarbone, so that's probably going to keep him out for a few weeks, guys. Going to go deeper into that shelf of wide receiver twos that they have there. Cleveland, DeAndre Carter was injured. I'm not sure how much he matters to your offensive number for Cleveland. And then Jack Conklin was inactive, as we mentioned last week. That was a weird one in week one. Keep an eye on that this week. He matters against a pretty good pass rush. This look ahead was 6.5, 43. Did open up a little higher. This is let me scroll up to this. Green Bay with 9. I think we're pretty much at across the market here. Why can't I find Green Bay? There it is. 8.5, some 8s at some places. So did open a little bit higher. I don't know if some people did some teaser protection this early in the week. That seems a little silly. So came down off the 9 at most places, and this total opened a little lower, 42.5. Green Bay, obviously, with the extra rest. Actually, I want to check that total. So 42.5 after Cleveland's offensive output over the last 2 weeks has been less than stellar. Coach Stefanski says they're not thinking about changing quarterbacks. It's still going to be Flacco. They just went to Dylan Gabriel because the game was out of control and out of hand at that point, which leaves us into Cincinnati, Minnesota. Minnesota got smeared last night as they had a lot of injuries and just didn't look that good at the important position of quarterback. J.J. McCarthy now with 7 really bad quarters and 1 really, really good quarter, which doesn't really equal out at this point. This look ahead was Minnesota, and it's funny, I'm going to just shit talk Minnesota. Terrible game, more injuries. Look ahead was Minnesota minus 1.5, all the way up to 3.5. Obviously, the big news is Joe Burrow has turf toe and is going to miss 3 once. Some people even tweeting out that is a very conservative kind of guess. It's probably most likely the season. Also, Shamar Stewart had a right ankle injury in the fourth quarter, did not return. Obviously not as important as Joe Burrow, but important. So it'll likely just be Jake Browning again. Vikings had their center, Ryan Kelly, leave with a concussion. Their backup left tackle, Justin School, leave with a concussion. He's filling in for Darisaw, who I'm not sure if we'll see yet this week. Aaron Jones was held out with a hamstring injury after, I think, third quarter-ish. Harrison Smith still not playing. And they also had another linebacker get hurt in Gabe Murphy with an MCL injury. Not sure what to do with this game. This is such a nice, perfect fade spot for Minnesota where, hey, they're just continuing to be injured, but people still believe in this coach. But at the same time, what are we going to do? You're gonna fade Minnesota by taking Jake Browning, I guess. Maybe 3.5 points if you can get it. It's 3.5 in the market right now. I know not everyone has this up. Rams Philly 4.5, 45 on the look ahead. Pretty similar reopen 4, 45, 45.5 at some places. This is another one where I'm already looking at this total, wondering again why we're so high. I don't have a strong love for the new offensive play caller there in Philly and what they're doing. Obviously, they can be super effective at times, but that's another total I think is a little too high. The fly in the ointment would be cornerback weakness for both teams. Not only cornerback 3 for Philly, but the Rams lost a cornerback in Ahkello Weatherspoon, who broke his clavicle, knocked him out early. For Philly, not much to write home about injury-wise, but Devonta Smith he was seen going to the medical tent briefly, so keep an eye on that. I'll probably be betting this under. Gonna keep doing that until Philly totals are in the 42 range, I guess. So 45.5, 45, those are under bets. Even early in the week for me here. Pittsburgh, New England. This was Pittsburgh 2, 41.5. Reopens 1, 43.5. This total is getting bet up despite Aaron Rodgers not looking quite as good. New England had a little bit better of an offensive performance. Obviously got some special teams points as well. I think this is maybe just a downgrade. Seeing the total go up and New England being, shaded towards New England, probably more downgrade for the Pittsburgh defense. It's looked pretty rough. And then also just outside linebacker Alex Highsmith, he left with an ankle injury, did not come back. Isaiah Loudermilk was lost for the game with an ankle injury. So a defense that's looked kind of bad and has had extra injuries. So maybe a little bit more of a downgrade for the Pittsburgh defense there. Jets Tampa, Bucks play tonight, so we're waiting. This was 5, kind of sitting at 5, and then I don't know if it was a reopen or a move, but we're kind of just sitting at 7 now, which I get because it's going to be probably Tyrod Taylor, as Justin Fields is in the concussion protocol. Probably going to get the backup quarterback there unless he does clear that over the course of the week. I guess we'll see. Not a massive downgrade, although Fields was playing okay. The Jets did. Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher, with an ankle injury. Tony Adams, the safety, had a groin injury, and Michael Carter hurt his shoulder in the third quarter. So maybe if Tampa Bay's offense has a little better day tonight, maybe this total we could see this tick up. It is 44.5-ish. Houston, Jacksonville, another one. Houston plays tonight. Look ahead, -143. Seemingly taking some Jags action, I guess. Jags looked okay, but that was a weird game to grade with the Burrow injury. Denver Chargers, another one. Chargers play tonight. So many teams playing tonight. This is LAC minus what? LAC. Oh, I'm looking at week 2. What am I doing here? LAC hosting -2.5, shaded towards 3. Total 44. This total's been ticking up in the look ahead market. I think it's 46 now. I need to get it so I can see both things on the screen at the same time. 45.5, 46. I guess there's a 46.5 at Pinnacle. We'll have to see if that's true. I can't bet there anyway, for the most part. Keep an eye on Surtain, who matters. Last year's Defensive Player of the Year. He did come back with his ankle tape, but he also kind of looked like Cheeks, getting targeted quite a bit. I guess that's a feather in the cap for Indy, another one where they said, we're not afraid to throw at this guy. Maybe that's just the key. People just didn't throw at him last year, and we all thought he was very good. New Orleans, Seattle, -6.5, 40.5 on the look ahead. Reopens, 7.5, 42? Ticking back downward a little on the total. But this is another one where I haven't made my full adjustments yet. I'm not this much of an upgrade on Seattle yet, especially seeing some of the turnovers and honestly some of the defensive play at times. So looking at the Saints here, haven't pulled the trigger. New Orleans played without Penning again. They played without Chase Young again. We'll see if those guys are going to make their way back. Seattle had a linebacker injured late in the game, Derek Hall. He limped off the field. Keep an eye on that. Dallas, Chicago, Bears. I mean, this is just a pick 'em. Bears minus 1.5, 46. This reopens pick 'em with a higher total, 48, as the Bears defense looks pretty rough at times. Dallas's defense obviously looked very bad without Deron Bland in. Kyler Gordon missing, TJ Edwards and Jalen Johnson left the game with injuries. So it could go from bad to worse for this coverage unit for Chicago. The Dallas Cowboys did sign Jadeveon Clowney after the game, which should be interesting. I mean, it's a pass rusher. He should be able to integrate himself very quickly. I wouldn't be worried about him having to sit out a week or two. Be interesting to see how they deploy him. Cooper Beebe injured his ankle after halftime, the center. That's one, obviously, to monitor, as he's an important piece of that offensive line. Arizona, San Francisco, 1.5, 42.5, reopens 143. This total's getting bet up. Let's check where it's at right now. 43.5, 44. There's some 44s out there. Arizona's a very hard team to grade for me. They're 2-0, but at times they've looked pretty bad, especially in the late game. Max Melton was hurt in the first quarter. Garrett Wilson and Will Johnson were dinged up late. So that's 3 cornerbacks for Arizona against the high-flying Mac Jones-led offense. We'll see what happens with that. Kyle Juszczyk was out early after one catch for 5 yards. He went out with a concussion. Offensive lineman Ben Barch had an ankle injury for the Niners. And there were some concussion protocol checks for a couple of defensive backs, but they both came back into the game. Keep an eye on that. And then back to Arizona. L.J. Collier, defensive lineman, he left the game as well. So some injuries on the defensive side for Arizona. We'll see. Maybe that's why we get this total ticking up a little, as Arizona's looked good when they've been in neutral game states. The offense has moved, and then they get into this positive game state and just kind of stymie themselves. I have no idea what's going on. Sunday night, KC New York Giants. What do we got? 6:43. Reopens a little higher at some places. Kansas City is 0-2. There's some 5.5s now as the Giants are taking money. We saw the moonball come into play. And not only that, but Kansas City's defense gets a couple extra injuries with Mike Dana up front, the edge, and Christian Fulton both leaving early in the game, not returning against the Eagles. The Giants did lose a starting inside linebacker as well, and Darius Muasau. He was ruled out with concussion in the second half. I can see it, I guess. I don't know. I'd have to see Russell Wilson do it again against a good defensive coordinator. It just felt really stupid in part by the Cowboys. So like, hey, he's got one play. It's the moon ball. Let's let him keep doing it. Let's let really fast guys get behind our safeties and see if anything bad happens. They're lucky to have won that game. And then finally, Monday Night Football, Detroit, Baltimore. Someone in the Discord joked about how this wasn't going to reopen near the total. It did not. This look ahead was 49.5. Reopens a bit higher. We're at, 51.5 here? That checks out. The Lions got their juju back. There's some 52s in the market at bookmakers, ticked up to 52 even money. That checks out. Baltimore not only beat the tar out of a bad team, but they kept their starters in for a while and kept scoring on them, which is something to monitor, I guess, when you're playing bigger totals or bigger favorites or bigger, some of these mismatch games. Detroit's 1-1 now, but heading to a pretty tough spot to win. Baltimore lost linebacker Kyle Van Noy. He had a hammy. Obviously, Jair Alexander is always hurt, so he didn't play last week after playing in week 1. And then Marlon Humphrey, obviously keep an eye on that with the groin injury. I guess none of them were awful. Harbaugh said none are season ending, which doesn't mean they can't be 6 to 8 weeks, I guess. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then for the Lions, Marcus Davenport was injured in the third quarter with ankle and shoulder injuries. Not what you want to see when you're playing a high-powered offense. I think that should just about do it. Look at that. I can do it in 20 minutes when Drew's not here. That's pretty easy. As far as like what I said, things I've looked at, things I like, I mentioned the Saints at +6 or +7.5. I mentioned the Eagles under. I'm probably just going to stay completely away from the AFC South for a little while, because I don't have a good grip on what those teams are going to do. I really need to see both games tonight before I can make some decisions in Jets Bucks. See what we get there. I want to especially watch the play calling from the Tampa Bay offense tonight. Is with some of these new offensive play callers, I think we've had some disconnects between here's the roster, here's the history, here's the priors, here's what we're getting. Honestly, and I think the Eagles are a big one with that, with the new play caller, and just how little we've seen some of the downfield playing. And I know they weren't a team that always pushed it downfield. It was a run heavy team, and that got them a ring last year. But even when they need to, it doesn't seem like it's been there. So keep an eye on that. I will keep an eye on more injuries. Drew will be back tomorrow. We'll talk about upgrades, downgrades, as Charles Saul says. The good news is we only have 6 more JJ McCarthy primetime games, which is true. Boy, he might be bad. It might be a problem. We'll see. We'll see what he can do. KOC fixed Daniel Jones. Why can't he fix JJ McCarthy? He just needs a little time. So we'll see how that goes. And then obviously, as I mentioned, new sponsor, check out Sharpstack. If you want to try this out, you can just go to 444/plans. Try it out for free for a week. You can look at this. This is just a tool that grades basically it. I don't want to shit talk any of these sports books, but it takes sharper lines at sharper books plus our projections and kind of says, hey, this is probably a good line because Novig is pitching you under 1.5 for Xavier Hutchinson receptions at plus 130. And if you look at sharper places plus our projections, that's a pretty good line. So it's a fun tool if you want to take a look at some player props, some arbitrage, and it even has a props odd screen, which is awful useful for guys who do play a lot of props so they can shop around. Take a look at that. 444.com/plans for a 7-day free trial. Promo code Deep Dive gets you a 25% off any plan over there. You can even do the betting plan where our friend Ryan Noonan was 4-0 this week on defensive player props, which is why I've got the 4-for-4 hat on. So that'll do it. We'll call it a day. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your Monday. Enjoy your revisiting any of the games you want to revisit. We'll go over team power ratings tomorrow. We'll talk about some of our biggest upgrades, downgrades, and maybe even some neutrals.